Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Chris Pate, and I'm here with Margaret and Jen as we're about to talk about our new series that we're doing here at church called Don't Waste Your Work, where we get to discover what it means to have your work as a part of your worship Monday through Friday, not just Sunday. So I want to talk to you guys a little bit about your work and what you do, and I want you to tell everybody here that's listening and watching what it is that you do. So we'll start with Margaret here.
I work in recruiting and admissions for Rice University for the business school specifically. So it's a really cool job. I get to travel around the United States and recruit students to come to the business school. And then I also get to do the admissions side of things. So read applications, kind of help people decide who's going to get into the school. So I really enjoy it.
That's awesome. What about you, Jennifer? What do you do?
I teach art at Elsik High School in Alief, and I also coach tennis as well.
Yeah.
So I get to help kids learn about art and make art and get our hands
So
dirty.
if they don't do good with their art, then you get to just slam them with tennis balls.
Well,
What makes you so passionate about your job? Like, why? What do you love about this? I mean, the travel and some of the things you're talking about, but
Yeah, so I think personality-wise, I am a developer by nature, and I like teaching and training. But I don't know if I could do the teaching level that Jen does. But a lot of my job is like having people, walking them through a process of an application or like what the program's about. I'm convincing them why, based off of what career they want to do, our MBA program would be good for them. And so I really get like joy out of just being able to consult them, because for a lot of people, grad school and especially MBA is probably the last time they're going to go back to school, and it's a huge decision because it's really expensive. And so they have so many questions, and so helping put people at ease and things like that is just, I just really like that aspect of it. So,
it's kind of bridging the gap there.
Yeah, bridging the gap for a lot of people. And
awesome.
Because our program's so small, I walk with people from September all the way till they apply in January. So I get to know them really well, actually, a lot of the people I work with. So.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
What about you, Jennifer? Like, what makes you passionate the most about what you're doing?
I really just working with the kids and the students, and just seeing them light up when they get a concept, when they're like, oh, I can do this. I can be creative in a world where it's like, you need to do this or you're not good. Whereas I'm encouraging that creativity, and just, I love to fuel that and, educate them. Also about careers, because high school, that's where they are learning about themselves.
Figure out,
and a lot of kids have, I know I've seen some minds change about the career field of art, but and then coaching is wonderful. I love to build that team, as well as coaching them to be better athletes and people.
Incorporate your faith, the gospel and message of Christ, into your context. I'll start with Jennifer, since we're talking to you. What does that look like? As spiritual life not just being something you put on the shelf, but something you're bringing with you and who you are. So what does that look like for you on a day-to-day?
So school, we are interacting with so many children every day, and I am constantly reminded of Christ's love for us, because we have to sacrifice ourselves for these children. They come in with some of the craziest stories, and it can be very tragic and sad, but we're there to love them. And so I don't know how people do it without faith, their faith in God. It's probably why teachers get burned out so fast, is because they don't have that faith. So just loving those kids is just the ultimate example of Christ to me.
And obviously you can't sit there and preach the gospel to them in a school context, like most people at work. That's not smart usually. But what is there any recommendation or things that you do or that you could share that you try to show that love or exhibit that love?
So I just, with some of my kids, when they do come to me with these things that's going on, I ask them questions and, try to, I can't be up front and be like, you need Christ. Like, I can't. But asking them questions to think about what's more than themselves, and just think about, what they do believe and trying to, but I can't,
Yeah, there's only so much you can do.
Yeah.
But you can exhibit love and grace, believing and not giving up on them, those kind of things. Yeah, that's great. What about you, Margaret?
Yeah.
Same question.
So, I mean, I think this is a question that I've thought about ever since going into the corporate side of things,
Right.
and because I've done ministry before. But I think one thing is just the integrity you have. I think there are simple ways that you can show the gospel and work, and just the integrity you have, and even your work ethic, doing things in excellence, and not that your identity is being in the most successful, but I feel when I work hard and do things in excellence, that's a way of showing Christ in me, and I think God wants that of us to do our work in excellence. So I always have to fight becoming lazy, because I go to work every single day, and sometimes it gets routine, and so I think fighting laziness just in those simple ways, and just having integrity, you'll be surprised sometimes just in certain jobs how easy it is to cut corners, and so trying not to do that, and people see that and they're like, well, this would have been easier, you could have just done this, or no one would have known about this, and but trying not to do that is kind of huge, how I incorporate the two, I think.
I know for me, I've been in the church world working for a long time, but it's still people, right? You still have people you're dealing with. I can be open, but I can't drop the, what are you doing? Where's the gospel card either? And so I know I've learned, especially being the leader, to come and be willing to kind of do anything and serve like Christ would serve, and get on his hands and knees and wash the disciples' feet. What do you think, or do you have ways that serving other people within your context is expressing that same kind of thing? Have you thought about any of that, or do you have any examples of that in showing the gospel through our willingness to serve?
I think sometimes, when certain people, it's really easy to stay in your lane at work.
Right.
My work is very team-based, so kind of our department is all hands on deck. So naturally, everyone kind of has to take up other people's stuff to just get things done. Yeah. But I think sometimes, even just taking someone to lunch and great. Paying for their meal. Right. I mean, you would just be surprised how people are like, okay, right. Sounds good. And to me, those are some ways I can go above and beyond. But again, if someone has, certain family things at home, be like, hey, I'll stay late for you today. Yeah. Which I don't have to. I don't do necessarily their job, right, in a sense. And that, I think, sometimes speaks volumes to people. They're like, oh, okay, cool. I can go home now. I'm like, yeah.
And I'm sure, Jen, you as a teacher, everything I do is serving these kids. But do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I have coworkers, and we don't interact a whole lot during the day, but especially tennis coaches, I do interact a little bit more, and just being there and listening, because I have my coworkers are going through quite a bit as well, and just being that ear and being available, I think, for them is a big thing to help encourage them, and just remember to keep it positive and not join in on the complaining, because
that's hard.
I think it's part of sacrifice, right?
Right. I think adding on to her, that's hard too. Just I think a big thing is being able to stay positive at work and not complain. I think we're in a world that we complain a lot about everything, and I'm very guilty of that. Or it's very easy, certain people at work, the gossip culture, that's a huge culture. And so fighting that, even not doing that, I think is so different. People will notice, oh, you're not talking about somebody, or you're not complaining, even though we're in a really frustrating situation. So trying to do that speaks volumes, I think.
How important do you think, when it comes to our relationship with God, and then our relationship with our work, how important do you think it is to make it a sense of a calling? Our work is a calling from God, as opposed to just a job. And how does that affect the way you work?
Yeah.
Because God's not sitting here going, just do that for a little bit, and then I'll get to you later. He wants to use you everywhere you are, right?
Yeah. Well, if you don't feel like you're called to a job, a lot of times, like you're always gonna get, like you said, burnout in some regards sometimes. But I sometimes think if you don't feel like you're called to it, like motivation can become very like non-existent. You know, I mean, because if you think about it, like work doesn't really have an end date. Like, I mean, like seasons change and you may leave, but like, I mean, you work.
Yeah.
And work and work. Like, you just keep working. No summer breaks. And so, you know, I think for me, it's like if I didn't feel called there, if I didn't feel like a lot of my giftings are being used there, and if I didn't feel, I guess, passionate about what I did, it would really be hard to find motivation. I do understand sometimes people just like have to find a job to like make ends meet, so they can't really, you know, find something that they're passionate or something that they really want to do. But even then, I feel like, you know, especially in even those scenarios, it's like, well, if you don't feel like this is where God needs you to be, like you could just, with all the pressures of, especially American work specifically, it's very success driven, very like get to the top driven, very like work a lot of hours all the time. That's the way the American work system is set up. There's not a lot of like vacation time really. So yeah, if you don't have Jesus, I don't really know how it's possible personally.
Or when I first started teaching, I worked in a middle school, and I know you went through the season too, where we were like, why does God have us here? Why does he have us here? And as we look, I'm sure as you look back, and I know when I look back, I'm like, well, he was working through me. He was building something in me, and I was there for a purpose, and it wasn't just to make money. It was there to influence children, influence my coworkers, and really start to, you know, prepare for the future as well, because my last job obviously prepare me for this job that I got this year. And it's a calling. Like, you can't just go into a certain field and just expect to be successful if the Lord has not purposely put you there. And I just encourage people, if you're in a spot where you are struggling to see the purpose, really go back to God and just really, I don't know, just see what he's trying to say to you, because no, the job I had before this one, like the work I just did not love. I was doing accounting, so I mean
some people love that.
Some people love that,
those
but my
weirdos out there,
my personality was not fit for that
extrovert
at all. And I was there for 2 years, so there was she was in my small group at the time, and so I think literally my prayer request every week was like, "Get me out of this job." But you know, kind of what she piggybacking off what she was saying is sometimes there's certain seasons of jobs too that like they are preparing you for something else, or God is just specifically has you there to teach you something. So literally, like the giftings you have may not be being used, or you may not like the work, but the Lord has still called you there. And so I think it's really important to understand like what calling means sometimes. Sometimes when the Lord calls you to a job, it doesn't necessarily mean that like you like the job or your giftings are always being used, but he's called you just to that place for a purpose. And so I think there's a difference there. I think it's very easy to be like, if I'm not passionate about it and I don't love it and I'm not making the money I want, then the Lord hasn't called me there. And that's not true.
That's why I like the term vocation. It's vocal. Like there's a calling. You're hearing, you're going after it. Because any job, right? I'm sure your experience. Even if you love it, it's exactly what you're created to do. There's aspects of it that are horrible. There's no such thing as 100%. I love this. And just anything that you could say to encourage other millennials or other boomers or other people that are thinking about the same kind of concept.
I'll say just learning and praying through that they're not separate entities. That was really hard for me for a long time. So I had my like spiritual life and then like work and like my spiritual family and work. And so just praying what that looks like to combine the two, because we're not supposed to, compartmentalize our lives. And God never wanted us to. And so like, how do we bring that into work? And also working for God's glory is more than just like evangelizing to your coworkers. Like, I think it's working in excellence. I think it's working with integrity.
That's great.
I think it's doing your job well. So there's so much more beyond just like, I'm at work so I can just like tell my coworkers about Jesus. Like that's part of it, but that's not, I don't even think that's the majority of it. Cause like you said, there was work before the fall. So, in my head, that means we're going to work in heaven in a lot of ways, but we won't be evangelizing. So there has to be a way that we can glorify God in our work outside of just evangelism.
Yeah, no, that's very profound.
Yeah, that's so true. Just remember that you are there because the Lord has put you there, and just, He has a purpose and a plan for everything.
Yeah.
He's not just doing it on accident.
Yeah.
And I really like what you said about it's not just about evangelism. It's about doing it excellently for the Lord.
Yeah.
For the Lord.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, being a witness.
Yeah.
Right? And a witness just answers questions. And so if you're doing things for the Lord, you have a joy of the Lord, you have things going, forgiveness. At some point, somebody's going to go, what's up with you?
Right.
Jen, you're different. Margaret, something's different. Like, tell me a little bit. And then the door's open, as opposed to just feeling like you're shoving something down somebody's throat and there's some kind of agenda.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Well, thanks for talking with us about work. And I hope everybody's enjoyed a little bit of our conversation about work and worship. We don't want you to waste your work and everything that you're doing. And I'm glad you guys are not wasting your work, as God doesn't waste anything at all. And He uses every aspect of our life. So thank you for your work, and thank you for loving the Lord and continue in what you're doing.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.